Welcome to the EXP Group, one of the leading providers of business training solutions. Please enjoy this presentation and visit us on the web at www.theexpgroup.com for more information.
Hello and welcome to today's learning video with the EXP Group. This video is a continuation of the ACCA Paper P3 Business Analysis online course that we're doing. Now today we're going to be having a quick look at culture and the cultural web. Before I do that, I just want to recap on what we've done so far in this chapter. Remember, we are looking at Chapter 4 of the Express Notes that are free to download from our website. We've looked at internal resources and stakeholders. And the first thing we looked at a couple of days ago now was SWOT analysis. Remember, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. I also then broke away from the notes and introduced us to TOES analysis, which is where we match the relative strengths with the opportunities, strengths against the weaknesses, and so on. SWOT analysis, one of the core models that we should be aware of in the exam. So after SWOT analysis, I then talked you through threshold resources and competencies. And again, remember that if it's a threshold resource or a threshold competence, it's a minimum that is required in order to be able to survive. It's a minimum thing you have to be able to do. We talked about shops, for example. So the minimum thing that the shops must be able to do is to ensure there's sufficient stock on the shelves to sell, for example. Core competencies. Core competencies are processes, activities undertaken by an organisation which are basically key to giving a business the competitive advantage. We then spent the last couple of videos looking at quite a key area of the syllabus, stakeholder mapping, which is known as Mendelow's matrix. And Mendelow's matrix breaks it into stakeholder interest and power, and maps the stakeholders according to those two factors. Now today we're going to have a quick look at the cultural web. So on page 22 of your Express Notes. First of all then, we're talking about culture, the culture of an organisation. Now the word culture, when we talk to people about culture, what do we mean by the culture of a company? What do we mean by the culture of the organisation? We tend to know what it means, but it's actually quite difficult to define. Now, according to Johnson, he's introduced something known as a cultural web, which provides an approach for analysing or influencing an organisation's culture. Now, it's called a web because it's almost like a spider's web, and it's all connected, and together that web helps create the pattern of the work environment. So this web, like a spider's web, there are 6 interrelated elements within it, which help to create the paradigm, which is a pattern of the work environment. And we can see using the diagram on page 22. We have stories. We have rituals. We have symbols. We have organizational structure. We have control systems and power structures. And together they form the pattern of the work environment. So in simple terms, these 6 interrelated elements represent the culture of the organisation. So if we go down now, let's look at a few of these in more details. The first one, stories and myths. So what this is saying, these are the stories, the myths that have been built up over the years that the organisation has been in existence. It's what people talk about, and it helps to create a message about what is valued. The next one, the rituals and daily routines. So in other words, what do people do on a regular basis? And that signals what is acceptable within the organization. So we have the stories that have built up over the years of what has happened within that organization. We then have the rituals and the routines that people undertake. The next thing may be more physical. So it's the symbols. What are the logos? What's the design of the organization? What's the dress code? Are people formal? Are they informal? How does all of this work? The next one within the cultural web is the organizational structure. And Johnson specifically mentions both the formal and informal reporting structures. So the organizational structure will have a formal structure, which is clarified within the organization, but there will also be informal networks and informal structures that are built up over time. Next one to look at, control systems. So what control systems are in place? Are they very rigid? Are they flexible? All of these have an impact on the culture. The final one, power structures. What we mean by this is who actually really holds the power, who makes the decisions, who influences the strategic direction. And now back to this diagram, and they're all interrelated. So all of them together will end up making what is known as the cultural web. They will impact on the culture of the organization. Okay, thank you for listening to this video. That completes chapter 4 of our Express Notes. And tomorrow we will start looking at chapter 5 and strategic choice.